I'm a gun-toting patriot, God-fearing patriot. Bryson, why they mad? Cause I'm real and they be faking it. Free speech advocate, it's on my mind, I'm saying it. I'm about to buy another gun and ain't nobody taking it. Gun-toting, Bible reading, God believing, truth speaking, American. This MAGA season, Democrats committing treason. I know they think it's sweet, but you don't know who you dealing with. This for free thinkers only. You ain't got no membership. They free General Flint out the cage, cause he innocent. Barton Roger Stone, cause the run know that he innocent. We need to kick out every single illegal immigrant. Mandatory voter ID laws we need to implement. Tell Justin Smollett that I know this MAGA country. Tell China we know they.
Hello, everybody. We are live an hour earlier than usual because I have a special guest. I'm just going to say really quick, a quick hello to everybody in the comments. We got John Marciano. Nice to see you, John. He says, hello, everyone. Yes. All right. I got two guests backstage. We're going to jump right into that. Yay! So first up, I have Vince Sardo.
Hi, Ruby. How you doing? Thanks for having me on.
Yes, I'm so excited that we finally got in touch. I know that you were like asking for my email, and I was trying to like connect with you, and I'm like, let me get this guy. Let me get this guy here. So thank you so much for finally being able to join me.
Yeah, it was. I know I was doing a podcast with Joe and Fran and talking about a recent book that I have coming out, and you jumped on in the comments there, and I really didn't know how to connect, so I was trying to look for you. And then my sister Nancy, who I think is friends with you too, she, kind of helped me get in touch. So
awesome, yes. So I do have my cousin backstage, King Tony. I see her here. I'll bring her up in a minute, but I do want to get your introduction started. So that's where we know you from, is from Joe and Fran.
Yep.
And so if you can just give me in a nutshell who you are, where you're from, and then we'll go on into the book, into politics. But first, give me like a good intro for you.
Yeah, so my name is Vince Sardo. I'm recently, I guess it's like maybe 4 years now, retired firefighter, EMT from right outside of Scranton, Pennsylvania, where the show The Office was. I'm in Dunmore. We kind of border Scranton on three sides. So, I've lived here my whole life. My family is Jehovah's Witnesses, a lot of them still. And I've been out of it for about 35 years. So I got out of the cult a long time ago. So that's.
Wow, that's awesome. You're like an OG veteran for XJW, XJW apostates.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, but when I got out of it, Ruby, years ago, and my sister's going through it now the last 2.5 years, and I'm kind of helping her, but she's got a network of people like yourself, and thank you so much for what you're doing. And I actually kind of want to do the same thing eventually to help not only, XJWs, but people that are just struggling with a lot of things in life. Life is tough. It knocks you down, but what are the things that get us going again? And, and to kind of help support people through that process. But when I came out years ago and, 35 years ago, there was no internet, there was no support groups. It was, it was really tough. And you're on an island of your own, especially when all your family's in it and everything else. So I went to a very dark place very quick because, you're taught that life, the end of the system is coming not in 20 years, but tomorrow, so I was like, okay, well, I never really got to party and live it up. So, I'm going to start doing that. And I went down a very dark road very fast and almost lost my life as a result. But
I could relate to that. And I remember you talking about that on their show. And I gave a little bit of my background as well. So I totally understand where you're coming from. So now you've been out for 35 years. You've done things that you've never done before, right? Because that's our awakening process. We're doing things we've never done before, and that kind of dives into your achievements, right? I think you said you were a motivational speaker, right?
Well, yeah, I am doing some motivational stuff now recently. I'm getting into more of that, and eventually I want to really kind of travel. I love to travel. I've retired as a firefighter. I've been in Asia and Italy and, all over the Caribbean. But I would love to travel even our country and just help educate people and help people, that are struggling with whether it's addiction or failed relationships, businesses, coming out of a cult, especially like I did. So if I could be there and kind of help people like you do, that's my purpose now. I was a firefighter, and you serve a community and you help people for a long time, and then you get out, and it's like, what direction do you go now? I'm not a guy that just stands still. I'm big into motivational stuff too. And as we talked about, David Goggins is a former Navy SEAL. He's got a book out called Can't Hurt Me, and he talks about if you're not moving forward, you're going backwards. There's no middle ground. Mm-hmm. So when I retired, I was like, well, what's the next thing for Vince Sardo? What do we do now? Right. So, and I had all these goals. I just didn't know how to achieve them. So, but we got it accomplished. I got to write an international best-selling book. And, we got to interview some very influential people in my community, very, very successful people. And it's just not like those people, like those stories transcend like around the world, because all the people that I interviewed that overcame all different types of adversity, homelessness, whatever it was, and aspired to where they are now. Those stories are global. They're not just in my community. So even though the stories are more localized, that I got to do the interviews, they reach people all over the world. So
awesome. Okay, so I'm gonna bring up my cousin just so that she can also be included. If anybody else wants to join, the link is at the top of my chat, and then I will post the link for Vern's channel as well, because we're streaming simultaneously. But here is my cousin, King Tony. Meet Vince.
Hello.
Hi, Vince. How you doing? Thank you for sharing your story a little bit. Yeah.
Thanks so much for having me on. It's a pleasure meeting with you.
I'm interested to see what you have to say. Yeah.
So that's what I was just about to ask you, Vince. Can you tell us both, and for everyone, what was the motivation, or what is like your book about? What made you write a book? What is the book about? What is it for, etc.? Go ahead.
Yeah, so I just love stories of people that win. You see, especially coming out of this organization, we see so many people that go through so many tough things. You know what I mean? And some of us don't survive. I mean, I was clinically dead. I mean, they had to shock me to bring me back to life 35 years ago from drug addiction. So at 23 years old, I mean, I'm 58 now, but at 23 years old, I mean, I went through a lot of tough times. So I survived, was fortunate to survive it. I became a firefighter EMT to then help my community and help people that saved my life. And then it's like, what's the next step to then go help people? So I did write a book, and it's a metaphor. It's called Legs on a Table, but it's what are the 4 pillars that basically transform your dreams into reality? And it's all about just basically what we need to survive. And it's, the core principles that I've used, but it's also interviewing 18 very successful people in my community. What is it with them too? So based on their stories and my stories, what I found, it's determination. We have to be determined, and you have to be resilient is the second one. Mm-hmm. If you're not resilient, life is no sunshine and rainbows. You're going to get knocked down. Mm-hmm. But unless you learn how to be resilient and build yourself back up and get that internal fortitude to keep fighting on, you're not going to succeed. And then of course, you need inspired action, and you need something to be passionate about. So whether it's a business or a mission like you guys are on to help people. And then it's self-belief. If you don't believe in yourself, no one else is, so you better have self-belief. Right. So these are a lot of the basic core principles that winners that I've interviewed have. And I think it's just, it's a global thing. I think these are the fundamental things that we really need to succeed.
What's the name of your book?
Yeah, it's called Legs on a Table. It's the 4 pillars to turn your dreams into reality.
That's very interesting. I think I might actually look into that.
Yeah,
it's in the description on this video. So if you want to click on that link for Amazon, you'll find it. I'm going to order your book from my library because that's what I've been doing. It's the best suggestion I could give to anybody. Or request your library to buy it, because it also gives, anybody the chance to read that book, have access to the book, and then you could purchase it for yourself, on Amazon. Mm-hmm. And stuff like that. Wow, thank you.
Because that's actually what I've been we've been having conversations with Ruby, because I'm like at a point where it's just like, what do I do now?
Right.
And that's exactly those 4 things are kind of like, I resonate with those. Yeah.
And again, and that's why I love like motivational people. And I grew up, leaving the organization, I found that, having a mentor or finding someone to help mentor you. And I was fortunate where I had a mentor in my life. And I was kind of used to being coddled in that religion. And, and after I got out and OD'd on drugs, it was like, oh, poor Vince and everything else. And then I met this mentor that I talk about in my book, Mark Weller, a good friend of mine. We kind of lost touch, but reconnected recently. And he was like, I really don't care. Like suck it up. It's going to be part of your story someday.
Right.
Now it is part of my story, but it was the right. And so I reconnected with him now, and I told him, Mark, I put you in the book, and what you said back then really meant a lot. He goes, I always felt bad about being that harsh with you, And I'm like, no, it was the right message at the right time. I didn't need to be coddled anymore. I needed to be accountable, and I needed to figure it out on my own of how to succeed. I didn't need someone to baby me, because you're not going to get through life that way. You need to figure it out. So by him being harsh, he really didn't realize the positive impact it had on my life. It really was. Yeah. I felt bad about it. And I was like, Bud, you changed my life. You have no clue. Like what you just made me determined. So it's like, having a mentor and all that type of stuff is definitely a big part of it. Was for me.
Okay.
You know what my father told me? He said, it sucks to be you.
Yeah, love it.
And I said, it sucks to be me? And that was the moment, like, that was a Vince moment for me when he said that about his friend, because I was like, it be your own parents sometimes. You know what I mean? It will be your own kids sometimes that tell you something.
well, and I love when people, bet against you, right? Like if you tell me I'm not going to win, like I'm going to win. Thank you for doubting me, so it's like.
Exactly. That motivates you to do more and to prove that point and be like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Cause early on, I wasn't doing it for myself. I was doing it to prove everybody else wrong. Now I do it for myself, and now it's like such a, overwhelming experience that I have and a joy, but for many, many years. And I talked, Ruby, on Joe and Fran, I think you heard it, how I talk about how I had an imposter syndrome. I had to go through therapy later on in life, like in 2017, 18, somewhere around there. I went for a couple of years because, I was a firefighter, and I became a union leader representing firefighters. And then I ended up working at our state capitol. I got hired to work for representing like 7,000 career firefighters around the state. Wow. I'm down there. I'm like, oh man, when are they going to find out that I'm, a fraud and that I was in a cult? And you know what I mean?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And here I am at like one of the highest levels of my career. Like that guys would go for. I was one of three guys in the state of Pennsylvania that represented firefighters, for a state organization. And it's like, when is the rug going to be pulled out? Like, and I just had that imposter syndrome where I felt like I was somebody I wasn't. And, that was towards the end of my career. And I really had to figure out like, hey, you got to learn how to enjoy the ride. I set goals and I succeed and I win, but I wasn't enjoying the ride. So like, that's important. You got to figure out how to enjoy the ride too. And love yourself, and have self-worth and value in yourself. And, that's where I am at this stage of my life. It took me a lot longer than maybe most people, but, we're there now. So that's the important part.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so true. You know what my kids told me? So my father told me that, right? And then I got it from my own kids. You know what they told me? They said, oh, your mother shuns you? Aww.
Oh my God.
And I was like, but you see, it puts you back in that perspective. Like, it grounds you again. So stop feeling sorry for yourself. Stop pitying yourself. Pick yourself up and do something with your life. Stop always complaining about the past or thinking about the past or whatever. And
don't stay stuck. Don't stay stuck.
I love that. I love that.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And that was the moment that I pushed myself out of that. I'm like, you know what? I don't care if she shuns me. So you could joke all you want. I don't care.
My sister's struggling with that now because she's just recently out, maybe a couple of years, and she's got adult children and grandchildren, and my mom that shun her, and it's guys getting out of it. It's really tough. So, but she talks to me a lot about it, and I'm trying to help her through it. But I tell her a lot of times, don't look backwards. You're not going that way. You got to just go forward. And although you want to try to change them, it's probably not going to happen. I tried for 35 years; it didn't happen. I hope for her sake it does, but generally.
I think the way that you can show them is by living your life the way that you see fit and what you're learning and everything that you're doing for yourself. They will see that you are doing good, That just because you left the religion doesn't mean you're going to die, or that something bad's going to happen. Like, it's a constant state of fear that they live in, and it's so toxic, and it's not a good environment. And it took a long time to get to that.
And they want you to fail, because you left Jehovah, that's why you're not having the blessings, and that's why you're not having a happy life. And like, I was ODing on drugs, and I was like a mess. And I remember my mom kind of coming to see me and saying, "Well, you left Jehovah," you know.
Right.
So
I hate when they say that. I hate when they say that.
Yeah. So that was like, it started my motivation at 23, then to say, okay, well, I'm going to create, because I'm not going back to that religion. There was no way, no how. There was just no way. And so I said, well, I got to create a life, and it took me a while to get on track.
Yeah.
But like every day, you know, you try to be a better version of what you were the day before.
And it's like, that's a good thing you say that. It's every day, it's continuous. You're continuing to grow. You're continuing to learn.
Every day is a step forward.
Yeah.
Exactly what I told you, Tony, the other day. I said, sometimes you cannot let your mind wander. You need to keep yourself stimulated, or keep yourself reading something, researching something. Yeah. The moment I let my mind wander is when the anxiety and depression comes in quickly. As soon as I put myself back into homeschooling, or back into a textbook, back into a book or a movie or something that I'm learning something, that all goes away. And it's the same thing with physical fitness too. You're doing something, you're active, you're not letting yourself wander and start thinking about what people are thinking about you. You're judging yourself. You're not thinking positively, because you're letting your mind being open to whatever influences can come, because your mind is going to be intrusive, impulsive, because that's just human nature. But if we keep ourselves in something, we're on a track.
And it doesn't mean it's not going to be a struggle, right? It's like going to the gym. You know, first of all, it's very hard to get there, right? But then when you finally get there, right? When you finally get the motivation to get there,
through that hour, that 30 minutes.
Yeah. Then you get there, but then lifting the weights or doing the physical workout is not easy. It's a struggle.
It's not.
But the benefits are there. But you have
the day after is worse too.
You have to force yourself to do it. You know, you just have to force yourself to push through, and it's like the same thing with your motivation and your mental well-being. Every day is not going to be easy. It's going to be a struggle, and some days are going to be a lot harder than others. But as long as we're taking a step to try to, get better,
as long as you're moving forward, even if it's slow. Well, that's why I want, Vince. That's why I wanted to piggyback on when you said a hobby or a passion. That for me was politics, and that's where this show was born. You know, all of these topics are born is because these are things that I was never allowed to read or to research or to have an opinion on, because they tell you, well, you voted for God's kingdom when you got baptized. You voted for Jesus Christ as your king. So why are you voting in elections? Why do you feel a need to get opinionated about the world if you should be part of the world? So give me like your journey into how you woke up politically and how you stopped being neutral. Like that neutrality leaves you, and all of a sudden you have an opinion about everything.
Well, becoming a firefighter and then being involved in a union, you're kind of thrown into politics locally, trying to get different guys elected that support you and versus other guys that don't support you. And that was on a local level. And then, of course, I worked down in Harrisburg. So then, of course, on a state level, it's a lot more. But I was a diehard Democrat. I mean, unions, I was a union leader on a state level, like representing firefighters, fighting against right to work type stuff and pension reform. And then, we were trying to do some good stuff too. It wasn't all negative. I mean, we presented legislation on PTSD bills and some other stuff like that. But so I was, I always supported my party because I felt supported me, you know what I mean? And what my goals were. But, I don't know if we're getting off track, but I mean, once I started to retire and my party at the time started going in a direction that I was not happy with morally and everything else, with the things that are going on with drag, kids and, drag shows with kids in school and pornographic type of, literature in elementary schools and, kids mutilating their body. And that was being encouraged by certain parties, or, how more women aren't appalled by, men and women's sports. I mean, just crazy things that are going on that just, like right is left and, up is down. It's like, even though I'm not real religious and I'm trying to kind of find my way back to that, or to God.
Mhm.
I still have those core morality
Right.
principles,
'Cause we
so
grew up that way. Yeah.
right. So like, how are these things okay? You're like, in my opinion, they weren't. So when people ask me now, how did you leave your party? And I'm like, I didn't leave my party. My party left me. Like I really truly feel that
Yes.
way. I feel like they left me. So,
Yes. But
so I went
yo,
the other
yeah, that's
direction.
so right. So yeah, I mean, yeah, that's very interesting because me and Tony have these conversations almost daily. Like we are in constant communication, especially about politics. And that kind of threw us into, these types of shows, topics, thinking, what's the agenda? What is behind the things that they say? Because they all lie. Like Tony
Right.
tells me, they all lie. They all for the same two different wings of the same bird. And
Right.
Trump is no good. Harris is no good. All of these are no people no good. So then I try to, pull that, rope a little this way. And I tell her, yes, but we have to, there's a moral duty behind being American, not taking for granted the voting system. We have the right to vote as women, right? Don't take for granted that.
Yeah.
So there's like different things that we kind of agree, disagree. We agree to disagree on certain things.
Yeah.
But that was my thing right there. We
Yeah.
come from New York City. That's a blue city. We kind of grew up with democratic values, with democratic talking points of like helping the poor, public housing, like you said, the unions, the teachers. So it was kind of like automatic for us to become Democrat. But I think she's apolitical. I think Tony doesn't want to deal with any politics, but she's interested.
Yeah, I'm neutral in the sense where it's like I'm not gonna choose either one of them. But we did have, what was that stream we did?
Talking about third parties. Because I'm like, we gotta break away from the two-party system.
And I was looking at the Green Party and the Libertarian. Yeah. So I started looking at those and like which is, I sent messages to Ruby, so we still haven't had that conversation, but that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
Right. She's still like researching. I told her, just see what they go to their websites,
what
see
they offer, just to see what it's about. And
policy, look at the policies,
right,
and then see which one that you can identify with more and say, well, this is what I agree with the most.
This
and
is really interesting. Not gonna lie. It's, you guys, if you've seen their websites, I'm like, whoa.
Yes.
This is all here and I didn't even know. Like,
exactly.
I like your point too, Ruby. Like, women at one point in American history didn't have the right to vote.
That's a very good point. And that's
so it's your God-given right now, to be able to vote, and you have that privilege to vote.
Have a say. Yeah.
And however you decide to vote, that's your personal choice. No one can tell you how to vote or what to believe. I just look at, like, for me, it's more. I just feel that I don't want to waste my vote on somebody that doesn't have a shot, even though I might like their principles, because I do like, years ago there was like, Ross Perot and different people like that, and the Tea Party, libertarians.
Okay.
Yeah, and I like a lot of their principles and values and running the country as a business, and and like the Tea Party, I think had a lot of great points back in the early 2000s, but I just felt, I just feel like now they had a chance actually back then, or well, we thought they did. But like today, it's like, it's either one party or the other, because to me, I feel it's a wasted vote. I mean, you can vote however you want.
I could understand why you say that. It makes sense, which is why I was telling Ruby that I feel like they force us to choose the candidates they want us to choose, which is, I am not about that, because you're still falling into their hands, so to say.
Yeah.
But they call that a protest vote. They say, oh, if you want to vote third party, it's like a protest vote, because like you said, we don't want to choose A and B, but then the argument of Vince is like, but then it's way because they're not going to win. They don't have the money behind
that's why I understand what he's saying. I got you. I get it. It's understandable. It's understandable. I get it. But in my head, neither candidate this year is really. I just don't see how.
Right. Well, like Ruby was saying too, it's both of them sometimes are the same, right? But it's like, what's the lesser of the two evils, or what are the moral characteristics that one party has over the other? Because years ago, the Democratic Party was that party. They were the party of morality and the party of, family and, and education. And today it's totally different. It kind of flip-flopped in my opinion. And, that's just my opinion, but I feel really flipped, and I think the Republican Party is more for the people now and, and the economy. I mean, under Trump, I mean, things were much better. I mean, I don't know if they could argue these points, but they were. And if he was going to be a dictator like the Democrats are saying now, he would have did it 4 years ago. If he was going to be that's
what she was saying, and I was telling her, well, it's all about timetables. You're not just going to go and throw something. Like, this is about time. This is about reeling people in. This is about getting people on your side before you just go and say, yeah, I'm a dictator. You know what I'm saying? And he's always saying, oh, Putin respects me, and Putin, me and him are like this. And like, that just to me is red flags. Like, that's a dictator, bro. Like, if you're that close with him, then I can only imagine what rule under you would be like eventually. Right now, what I think he's doing is just dropping seeds and trying to get the people in. And yes, I'm going to change the country, but really, neither of them are going to do anything because I don't think they have the power. And at the end of the day, I think it's going to go how the government's going to say, no matter what, until a group of people or the majority of the country's people stands up against.
I agree.
And that's what I think. I think real change is when the country realizes or comes to a point, it's like, yo, this is a game. This is just a joke. And like, we all stand together and we're like, no, none of the candidates, third party, first, second, none of them.
Yeah.
So what's the better option?
Yeah. Well, if you want to really go down the rabbit hole, right? I mean, the globalists pretty much control the world, but if we could have one that's going to hopefully stick up for the people, in my opinion, it's, the Republican side.
I can hear that. Yeah.
Yeah. So
it's a lot of good points. I mean, I was watching his debate and even like he'll say stupid stuff, but it's just like, there's some truth to it. You can't deny certain truths and you can't also deny he says some stupid things sometimes, but like, how old is he? He's in his what? How old is he?
We've had these conversations before, but I don't want to take up too much of Vince's time. But we're gonna get there. We're gonna do an episode just for you, and we're gonna do that because what Vince said earlier was.
But Tony, I agree.
Yeah,
I agree with some of the things he says is not politically correct.
Yeah,
right. But I wanna go back to what Vince said. He said the party left me. I didn't leave the party. I agree with that 1,000%. But Vince. Go talk to me a little bit more about that, and what was your decision? After finding out that the party indeed left you, and their values are, in my opinion, radical. Extremists leaning left. So what happened? What was your exit of the Democratic Party?
Yeah, because the Democrats actually were, like we talked about earlier, in New York years ago, and you had the presidents of Kennedy and stuff like that, and they were good president. I mean, he was a good president. I mean, I liked Reagan too, but I mean, those core principles on both sides, they were like, they kind of like, they had the core principles, values that they lived by. Today we went so far the other direction, and that's why you just couldn't go on that journey anymore. We're so far off base, but it's normal. They normalize craziness, and I mean, like I said, if you want to go down the rabbit hole with Satanism and the rule of the world and what's going on with, I mean, it's crazy.
It's crazy.
People with power have right now and what they're involved in media and Hollywood and, I mean, so, and entertainment. I mean, it's crazy, but yeah, so for me, like, I just needed to go in a different direction. I just feel myself personally that the Republican Party and Trump, I think he did an outstanding job as a president in 2020. The economy was great. I have a lot of friends that I got to interview for my book that are very successful in business, and they all said that they were so much better off business-wise. I mean, just what happened with COVID, and if you want to call it COVID or a pandemic or whatever. I mean, all these mom and pop shops, they were shutting down, but local hardware stores in my town had to close down. But Home Depot, you could stand in line like a mile long next to a guy to get into Home Depot. I mean, it was just insanity. Restaurants, my cousin was just in from California, and restaurants were being closed down in California, and just I mean, all over the country. I mean, these people went out of business. You know what I mean? Like, and then but the corporate chains were allowed to stay open. Like, it was just like crazy stuff. So when I saw like how this was all trending, I was like, I just can't do it anymore. So I actually got, and just as a side note, I'm an extremist. I'm either very bad and ODing on drugs and dead at 23, or 100, or being a union leader in Pennsylvania, right? So
Yes.
So when I switched parties, I was like, okay, I really need to get involved in the campaign and really start helping out. Now, I didn't do that in 2020, but I literally feel like our country's on the line right now. That's my personal view. I think right now it's like, it's do or die. It really is, in my opinion. So I got involved. Trump rolled out a program in Ohio for the campaign early on. And if you remember, it was like 30 below or something. And like they had the most voters ever. And it was called a program called Trump Force 47. And it was to basically, instead of going knocking on doors and, Democratic people that are never going to vote for you and wasting all that time and all your resources, they start targeting low propensity voters, which are just basically voters that kind of vote Republican or they're moderate that might vote either way, but they're open-minded. To target those type of voters instead of voters that aren't going to go your way, but they're low propensity, and all that means is they just don't vote in every cycle. So what we're trying to do is try to encourage those people to get out and vote, at least in this cycle. It's a crucial election. So they had tremendous success in Iowa with that. And I said Ohio, I think it was in Iowa, where they crushed it. I mean, he just crushed it, and the turnout, and a lot of it was mail-in ballots, and that's where we're trying to encourage people to kind of vote early. Not like the Democrats, don't vote early and often, just early voting. And in my area, we say the dead still vote sometimes.
Yeah.
But
that's amazing. I actually signed up for Trump Force 47 as well, but I didn't attend the Zoom meeting to actually start like making phone calls and things like that. But I was moved enough to like actually sign up for it. And then I also signed up for volunteer work in Florida to start advocating for Amendment 4 on our ballot, and is an amendment for our Constitution in the state of Florida. And it has to do with abortion. So it's called the Vote No on Amendment 4 campaign. And then I started volunteering for that. And that was my first time that I actually got politically involved. And I felt like I was telephone witnessing. Like it gives you the list and you click a button. Yeah. So I overcame a little bit of that trauma, but I started talking to people about what I love, which is politics. Once you find a passion, you can use the skill set that they taught us as Jehovah's Witnesses, but you could change the thing you're doing it with, the narrative, the agenda. It could be anything. So for me, that's politics, and I jumped into that, and I'm just like what Vince is doing. I'm kind of doing it in my state as well, but it feels good, right? Like to be a part of something that you actually believe in, right? Because now for you, you've changed politically, quite literally, in a span of years. We haven't had that. We're too young. You know what I'm saying? So for me, it kind of feels accelerated. I feel like I'm being pushed out of every community, pushed out of every ideology that I used to agree with, and now I don't. So it kind of feels like really fast for me, and I slow it down a little bit, and I have to be like, okay, what do I actually believe in? What do I actually agree with when it comes to politics? So Vince, I wanted to ask you, even though you say that, you're Republican now, a lot of people say, even though they are registered with a party, doesn't really mean that they agree with everything that is in that party, right? I think we can all agree with that.
Oh, absolutely, right.
But I wanted to ask you a little bit more. I want to dig a little bit more. Where are you on the spectrum? So even though it's right-leaning, where are you in the spectrum? But what do you consider yourself?
Well, I actually just switched parties, to Republican. I was a registered Democrat voting Republican the last couple of elections, but from what I understand and what I was educated on is that whatever party you're affiliated with, whether it's the GOP or the Democrats, each county or each state gets money allocated for those campaigns based on registered voters. So if I don't believe in your principles, I certainly don't want money going to fund something because I'm on there that they would get money for me. So that's why I decided just to switch parties. And so that was the big reason, because I figured, because a lot of my friends locally, run for politics or whatever. And, and we're in a very Democratic area like New York State, like you guys were. And if, you can't vote in the primaries because, you can, but you can't vote, Democrat. You could only vote your party. So if my friends are running, which they do as Democrats, and then too, they vote Republican in a lot of ways too, but they stay Democrat locally. So But I try to tell them, listen, if you don't agree with the policies anymore and the character and the moral issues, then money is being sent on your behalf to the Democratic Party. So that's why I switched. So.
Okay. But I mean, like, how do you identify yourself? Because even though, okay, this is what I mean. I'll give you an example. So for myself, I have to register, like you said, Republican if I want to vote for Republican because there's closed primaries in Florida, right?
Right.
But I don't consider myself Republican. I consider myself Christian conservative, and a little bit more than that. I fall into like Christian nationalism, and I also fall into the Constitution Party. So I consider myself a constitutionalist, but I can't register as that because then I won't be able to vote in closed primaries for Republican politicians. Yes. So that's what I mean by like, how do you identify yourself? Because even within the branch of the Republican Party, there's so many different different ideologies. So I wanted to ask you, so where do you see yourself? Where are you?
I feel myself as with the constitutional avenue as well, because I mean, that's what our country is based on. So if we're getting off track on that's a major issue to me. And that actually happened in Pennsylvania. I'm sure you're aware of the last election, but they broke the Pennsylvania Constitution by allowing people to vote longer or calculate votes longer with mail-in ballots than the election.
Yes.
They violated our Constitution, and they allowed it, and it went, and it happened. So I mean, if we're not going to stick to the Constitution and the rules that our forefathers founded the country on and the principles, then where are we as a nation? So so I do believe in the core principles of our government. So
nice. Okay, yeah, I do too, and I think that I probably would switch my party in the future. I don't know. I'm waiting for this election. This election tells me everything. If Trump doesn't win, I'm gonna switch. I'm gonna become a constitutionalist, and I'm gonna be unapologetic about it, because those are where my views really lie, is with the Constitution Party. Like you said, the Constitution is the law of the land, and I believe in that. Especially with the different states, we have our own constitutions, and that shouldn't be touched. It should not be like changed at all. So yeah, that's kind of how I feel. But it kind of sucks that I have to stick it out because I want to vote for Republican people, the America First movement. I don't know if you know a little bit about that, but it kind of started off with, this, he used to be a YouTuber. He's on Rumble and stuff like that. His name is Nick Fuentes, and he got a lot of backlash because of the, like Christian nationalism and things. Like, they were really giving him a hard time with that. And I respect everybody else's opinion, but like I said, I do agree with some of those talking points, with some of those values. So I kind of moved away from Fuentes and his movement, but I still believe in America first, which means putting American interests first, our border first. We should not be in these foreign wars, foreign policies, sending money to Israel, sending money to other countries that are literally killing people with our weapons, our money. So that's why I wanted to get, we have Jesse in the house. Welcome, Jesse.
It's Nathan.
Hello.
It's Nathan.
Nathan.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Is that King
he
Tony?
changes his name every time he comes on stream. So
From New York?
From New York.
Vince, are you Italian?
I am.
Oh, nice.
I didn't mean nothing bad about that. I'm Mexican.
Isn't it today National Taco Day?
No. Oh my God. It's always Taco Day.
You right. That was the right answer.
It's always Taco Tuesday.
It's always Taco Day.
Always Taco Day.
Yeah, some of the things, Ruby, that it really, I get appalled about is that our veterans, we have homeless people and our veterans, homeless people in general, but especially our veterans living on the street.
Yeah.
They're being thrown out of hotels and things like that, and shelters, to take in people that didn't even come here legally. So that's what really bothers me. We have one Veterans Day. It's one day in 1 month. And then there's other monthly type of celebrations to honor other people, whatever. I mean, whatever your beliefs are. But I mean, to only honor veterans 1 day out of the year versus a month, like some other, groups get, it to me is ridiculous. I wouldn't be able to live my life or do the things I'm doing right now if it wasn't for the sacrifice of our veterans. And I'm a huge veteran supporter. I wasn't military because, of course, growing up as a witness and, but I do truly, have much respect for the sacrifice. In fact, in my book, I got to interview a Korean War veteran that was bayoneted and left for dead on the battlefield, and someone saved his life, and he ended up surviving. And at 90 years old, he started writing books. And I think there's over like 150 VAs around the country, and he won 5 gold medals for his writing since starting at 90. So I say in the book, it doesn't matter if you're 23 when you start your life like I did, or 93 when I interviewed him. He had 5 gold medals for over 150 VAs. But your life could start at any age. And Joe, his name is Joe Barna, Marine Lance Corporal Joe Barna, fought in the Korean War 15 months or something like that. They went over with like 8,000 people and they came back with like less than 1,000. I mean, so like that, when you meet these guys and you talk to them and you hear their stories, like when I see people burning flags and things like that, it just like, I'm not happy.
Oh, I know how you feel. Like I told Tony, if I didn't have kids, I'll be right at the front lines, honestly, because that boils my blood. No, for real.
Yeah.
Like these campuses, these people who they haven't earned anything. They didn't work for nothing. And you over here protesting and chanting for another country when you can barely even afford groceries. Like,
I know.
Stop playing pop.
Yeah. So, and they have the right, and they have those rights to protest and to burn our flag because of the sacrifice of our veterans. And we don't even take care of them. If we're going to take care of anybody first, as we were getting back to, taking care of people, take care of the veterans first. And then, if you want to send money wherever, I mean, whatever, they're going to do it either way, but at least take care of our people first.
America first. That's exactly what that principle is, and that belief in like us first, because we could barely afford anything. The veterans are on the streets, exactly everything that Vince just said, but they're over here debating on sending money to Ukraine and Israel. That's what gets me. And this whole hurricane that just passed, North Carolina is gone. Like cities have been demolished, and ain't nobody coming to help them.
Yeah.
But they're sending money to Israel. They're sending money to Ukraine. They're sending money to who else knows where. Like it's crazy, in my opinion.
Did you see Zelensky? Zelensky was just in Pennsylvania. He was like literally a mile away from my house.
Wow.
At an ammunition plant.
Hell no.
Yeah. And all he's doing is coming here to get more money. Yeah. We already sent him trillions, and they want to give him more. I mean,
he got more yesterday, didn't he?
Did he?
Yeah, I think so. 10 billion, I think.
Yeah. Oh hell no! You see, chill.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Ruby, I if I could get a minute, I wanted to. I come in here and I'm sorry, I'm defending the Republican Party because I'm a lifelong Republican, even though I was a Jehovah's Witness elder. And I tell everybody, I was like, like when you're gay, you're in the closet, and the gays tell you that, well, I was born a Republican, and I kind of compare it like when you're in the closet. I was a Jehovah's Witness elder. And I love Nixon. I voted for Nixon in school when I was a little kid in school. And I cried when Jimmy Carter beat Gerald Ford. And every time Saturday Night Live made fun of Gerald Ford. And if you notice, everything that they have said about every Republican leader since Abraham Lincoln, that Abraham Lincoln was aloof, that Ulysses S. Grant was stupid. Ronald Reagan was stupid. Teddy Roosevelt was a cowboy. Ronald Reagan was a cowboy. Gerald Ford. Everything came true in the life of Joe Biden. I don't know if that's karma. I don't know if that's karma. Like they used to make fun in Saturday Night Live of Gerald Ford falling down doing the Christmas tree. And then we get Joe Biden shitting in his pants.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's karma. But the thing is about the Republicans, some of the biggest jerks in the world are Republicans. But like John McCain, Mitt Romney, and go down to your local good old boy network. But the struggle for freedom in the United States the last 150 years is always within the Republican Party. That's where the fight is. If you're going to live somewhere, this is where the fight is. We know some of the biggest jerks are Republicans. We know that. Look at the Dick Cheney's daughter. She's the biggest jerk of all. What's her name? Liz Cheney? So what's happening is the grassroots people like you and I, we're fighting. That's what Ronald Reagan did. Ronald Reagan was a Democrat, and he came and fought in the Republican Party. Donald Trump was probably a Democrat. He's not an ideologue, and he came in. So the struggle for freedom has always been. During the 1964 and the 1960 Civil Rights Act, they weren't going to get it done without Republican. We weren't going to do Emancipation Proclamation without the Republican Party. So in that sense, I'm a Republican. In that sense, and for the struggle of freedom, not because of the good old boy network, because of corporate greed, but because of the struggle for freedom. And you know, our border. I live a couple of miles from the border. I probably live like 2 miles from the border, and it's not us Republicans doing that. We're not the ones aborting your babies. We're not the ones causing inflation. We're not the ones cutting down drilling. We're not the ones raising inflation. This is not the Republican Party. So a lot of times when people say, Democrats and Republicans are the same. No, they're not. We're not the ones fighting in the Ukraine, starting the war. It's ironic how we're the ones trying to stop the war now. We're becoming the counterculture.
Yeah. Yeah, they flipped. Point. They really flipped, you know. And it's funny.
We're not Republicans in that sense, yeah.
To your point too, Nathan, about you know, how they made fun of Ford. He tripped one time coming down the steps. Biden falls over like it's a normal thing, and they just push it under the rug. Ford, it was like it killed him when he ran. They just made a fool out of the guy. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Gerald Ford, 1976. But you know what? I think what undid Gerald Ford was his pardoning of Nixon. I think that what ultimately did it. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And it's funny how, look at Bobby Kennedy. I think Bobby Kennedy, us Jehovah's Witnesses, ex-Jehovah's Witnesses have a lot in common with him because he gave up so much to leave the plantation. Kind of like a Jehovah's Witness. When we leave, we lose everything, all our social structure, our family, and we get disfellowship and we get shunned. And Bobby Kennedy has taken so much heat for what he has done. For his belief and his conviction. I mean, I think this is a man of honor. I really think. Now, time will tell if I'm right or wrong, but just from what I see on the ground.
Well, I love his stance on the environment and exposing chemtrails and the water pollution and how we're being poisoned. And he's not afraid to speak out about really what's going on because it's all real stuff in Pennsylvania. There's chemtrails here every couple of days. Like, you know, they're.
I have to go down that rabbit hole. I have to find out what that really is.
Can I say this? And this attracts a lot of the female voters. I know because my sister-in-law runs for Congress, Arizona Congress here in our state. And we ran on a ticket of love. And Bobby Kennedy, I think everything that you enumerated right now a few seconds ago, I think has to do with love. Love of country, love of environment, love of family, children.
Love of people, right? Yeah. Yeah, keeping people healthy. Yeah.
Yeah, look what happened yesterday. Major League Baseball, Pete Rose died. If these were more loving people, we forgive murderers and rapists. We could have forgiven that old man.
I know.
But, you know, just people are just so. You gotta love. Yeah.
Right. Wow, guys. Thank you so much for joining. This stream is about to end in 10 minutes, but I have another stream of the watch party of the VP debate. So if you guys want to join me there, we're going to hop onto that stream and then I'll put the link on that chat because we're going to do a watch party. We're going to watch it live. And then after the debate, we're going to talk about it. We're going to have fun and hang out. So I want to give Vince the last 10 minutes to just give us like your final thoughts and promotion of your book or anything else that you're doing right now.
Yeah. So again, the book is Legs on a Table. It's basically, again, a metaphor for what, you know, are the pillars that, you know, turn us into winners, and what are the core principles that make some people win where other people turn to drugs, alcohol, depression, or they just have basic fears. They're afraid of failure. They're afraid of what other people might think, or so it's just basically, we put that all in a book. We got to interview 18 people and just some really good stories. And some of the situations, just a girl, you know, homeless, went through abuse. She lost a child in an ATV accident. Other people that had businesses lost everything and rebuilt back into multi-million-dollar businesses. And, you know, my story coming out of a cult and how it almost killed me. And I was clinically dead. And, you know, because I lost my family, my community, my friends, my business, my wife that was in the organization at the time. And then I'm so sorry. My worldly grandfather was sick, and all this stuff was going on where I was thinking about leaving the religion. And then the final straw was that I was only like 21, 22 years old. They were like fast lining me to be like a ministerial servant. I ran the mics. I did the magazines after the meeting. I did like number 2 and number 4 impromptu talks, like, show someone to show up. And I mean, I was good. So like I said, I was an extremist. But when my real grandfather died, he was my first mentor. They told me I couldn't go to his funeral to be a pallbearer. I was going to lose all my responsibility, or all my, things. And I was like, that was the last straw for me. I was like, that's it. And when I made that decision, I was married. Well, then she was not happy with it. And then of course I had a business, a floor cleaning business, which a lot of witnesses have businesses. And I stripped and waxed floors. And I was like 23 years old. I was doing $250,000 a year, and I had a bunch of workers, and, and then, they started not to work for me. So I lost that business, lost my wife, and then I just kind of gave up on life, and, lost my community, lost my grandfather. He died May 18th, was buried May 21st, which was my birthday. So 6 months later, I ultimately ended up almost losing my life too. And I talk about in the book, I became everything I never wanted to be, a failure, a quitter, all these things, you know what I mean? And it was, I was always a dreamer. Even as a little kid, I always had these high aspirations and big dreams. And I talk about it too, where my dad used to kind of make fun of it or kind of belittle it a little bit and say, you're a dreamer, and I am. I've always been a dreamer. And but dreams could become reality. You just need to be persistent, persevere, have determination, have self-worth, value yourself, and have inspired action. And all these core principles are the things, and the 18 people that I got to interview have. And the stories are tremendous. Like I said, they're just not local stories. They are, but they transcend around the globe, because it's all things that we've all dealt with, whether it's stage 4 cancer and surviving that. And the one guy went to work every day and was getting chemo. He had a chemo pump and never missed a day at work and survived cancer. It's just like, just these inspirational stories of people that win. And I love success stories and people that win. My story is a story of becoming a winner. And it was, like I said, a long journey to become a winner, because even though I was winning in life, I was failing personally with that imposter syndrome and not valuing myself and not having self-love and worth. And I had to learn how to do that too, because you come out of this cult and you carry that with you for many, many years, that, people look down on you, and you see people in a store and you're like, oh, like you're the bad guy. You got leprosy, like, you know what I mean? Like, seriously, that's how I always felt, like, and I just got to the point where it's like, now it's like, you don't want to know me or be friends with me. Well, it's your loss. It's my mother's loss. It's my, my nieces and nephews' loss. They're my sister's loss at the time. My close friends that I grew up with in the organization, it's their loss. I'm a great guy. I do a lot of positive things. I was a firefighter. I helped my community. And if they don't want to know me or don't want to associate with me, well, then it's your loss. So.
Wow, Vince, that was amazing. Oh, I also have like this XJW book club. So I want to do an interview with you. Like, after I read your book, I'll order it. And then after I read it, I want to have you back on my channel for like an actual video, not a live, and do that interview and go deeper into that, because that was a lot. And I want to dig into that.
Yeah.
So I'm going to invite you back.
Hold up the book again. I want to take a picture.
The link is also in the description. So if you are interested, it's on Amazon. You can order it for yourself. Order it for your library too, wherever you are. Order it for your library so that more people can read it.
It's on Amazon. We actually hit #1 in 3 categories for inspired stories on Amazon, and we hit #1 for because I talk about my spirituality too and trying to find my way back. So we hit like our religious leadership and Christian leadership, and then we hit #1 for inspirational stories, and then we hit international bestseller for international stories too. It wasn't #1. I think we were 36, but I was able to say international bestselling book. So yeah, it's been an accomplishment. Yeah, I'm very proud of it.
Congratulations.
We're getting some tremendous support in the community and hopefully nationwide, worldwide. So thank you so much
for sharing your story too.
Yeah, thank you, Vince, for coming. I'm gonna keep in touch with you, okay? Because I got you on.
Absolutely. Facebook. Thanks so much, Ruby.
Awesome.
It was great meeting you.
It was nice meeting you too, Tony.
Have a good night, everybody.
Good night.
We're gonna hop on to the other stream. I'm gonna end this one, and we're gonna do the watch party for the vice presidential debate. So let's see what we're in for. We're gonna have fun. We're gonna hang out. Tony, you better meet me back here.
I'm coming.
On the other stage. Okay. All right. Bye, everybody.
I'm a gun throwing patriot, God being patriot. Bryson why they mad, cause I'm really Navy faking it. Free speech advocate, it's on my mind, I'm saying it. I'm about to buy another gun and ain't nobody taking it. Hood toting patriot, God being patriot. Pricing why they mad, cause I'm really Navy faking it. Free speech advocate, it's on my mind, I'm saying it. I'm about to buy another gun and ain't nobody taking it. Okay.
All red MAGA flags waving through the South like we just want 4 more years. Democrats can't get right. Trumping with that Yeezy flow. Don't go broke on Sleepy Joe. Make America great again.